After getting burned out on Epic 7 and being let down by new titles like Etheria Restart, I stumbled on it. The best turn-based gacha no one is talking about. Rememento White Shadow. And honestly, it might be the best side game I've played in a long time. It's not flashy, and it's definitely not reinventing the wheel. Instead, it feels like they Frankenstein together the Temu versions of Genshin Impact, Honkai Star Rail, and Summoner's War. The result is this weirdly compelling package. It might be a little janky around the edges, but the core is clean. It's free-to-play friendly, and it genuinely respects your time. So of course there's a problem. Unfortunately, after playing for a week, and yes, I did open my wallet for it, I'm genuinely scared for its future, and my fear has nothing to do with the gameplay. The game itself is a decent offering, but between troubling reports about the studio's future and a marketing push that has been virtually non-existent, Rememento feels like one of those amazing hidden food trucks where the menu has everything from tacos to pasta to curry. Nothing's a 5-star masterpiece, but it's all surprisingly good. It feels like it could vanish tomorrow, simply because no one knows it's there. And that brings us to today's first impressions, where we'll break down why I think this game is worth checking out for busy people, what its flaws are, and what I think the future holds. So let's be the dog sipping tea for a moment and talk about what Rememento gets right. First up, let's talk about what everyone cares about the most, the free shit. I only bought the $4 beginner pack, and after about 5 days of playing a couple of hours a day, I had already racked up around 150 summons. The game was just throwing pulls at me. Most importantly, the characters feel much more accessible. Every hero goes into the permanent banner after their banner finishes, and at 200 pity you can just pick any character you want, except for the newest release. This includes the rare L&D units, which means no separate FOMO-inducing banner for them, and this makes building a roster feel actually achievable. Now, character dupes are impactful, which is always a bummer, but the system here has a silver lining. Dupes are obtainable through gameplay, and it seems possible to earn them over time as a free-to-play player. The best part is, most characters work perfectly fine out of the box from what I've seen, and getting the first dupe seems to be the biggest significant change anyways. So if you do decide to spend, the value seems pretty solid, for gacha at least. Some packs I saw had characters selectors, and combined with the 200 pity system, it means that low to mid spenders can actually target and get the exact characters they want, no matter when they join the game. The story is another pleasant surprise. Let's be clear, we're not talking peak fiction here, alright? This isn't Jujutsu Kaisen, but at least it's not one of those esoteric, jargon-filled yap fests that plague so many other gacha games. The stakes feel meaningful, and I actually found myself caring just a little bit about the characters. It feels like a B-list isekai. I'm not gonna binge all of it, but I will try the next episode. And for those of you who want to see just big numbers and big boobs, well, there's the almighty skip button. Okay, now let's get to the real good stuff. The part that speaks directly to my soul as a busy gamer, alright? The quality of life features. The single biggest game changer is how it handles stamina. You can adjust how much you spend per dungeon run, up to 10 or 12 times the normal amount, and it multiplies the rewards accordingly. This means you can burn through your entire daily stamina in just a handful of quick battles. No leaving your phone on to auto battle for an hour, no constantly fine-tuning teams for clear speed and consistency, no checking in later to claim your auto battle rewards. With dailies that take 5 minutes tops, this game has one of the most convenient day-to-day loops I've ever seen. It's so good that it's almost disrespectful to every other gacha that wastes your time. Okay, we're getting to the real meat and potatoes now, the combat system. It's like the devs are DJs of turn-based games. They took the simple but deep strategic beats from Summoner's War and layered it with the flashy modern melody of Honkai Star Rail to create a clean and tight remix. Characters have distinct abilities without being overloaded by skill descriptions longer than a PoE build guide, or a list of buffs and debuffs big enough to cover a Genshin character's forehead. The bottom line is I could figure out what a character does by reading the skills in the game, not by pulling up a 40-minute YouTube guide. A truly revolutionary concept, I know. That intuitive design means that progression just feels smooth. I followed a simple and obvious strategy. So the mana battery goes first, then the attack buffer, then a AoE damage dealer with a flexible fourth slot, and it carried me through all the content so far. I've only been gated by the storyline, not some weird difficulty spike or insane grind peak. Every new piece of gear, every new character I subbed in felt like a meaningful upgrade. Finally, the production value. This is obviously not a AAA title with a 9-figure budget, but it feels like it was made by a small team of GigaChat devs who's been around the industry and knows the assignment. They focus their limited resources on what matters. The character models look decent, although nothing too innovative, with animations that make them come alive. And let's be honest, the real test for any 3D waifu is the gap. And they could have done better. Anyways, the UI is clean and intuitive in terms of all the different menus and such, and the animations in battle, like the health bars dropping, the damage numbers popping, all have that satisfying oomph. They do a lot with little, and it all comes together to create a game that just feels good to play. Okay, so I've played this game enough for now. But you're not here to watch me frost donuts, you came for the salt. So let's talk about the parts of the game I didn't fuck with. Let's start with the biggest concern for any gacha game, the long-term economy. I praised how generous the game is up front, but that's just the honeymoon phase of a lesser-known game trying to make a good impression. Pity for limited banners is 120 pulls, and the permanent banner is 200. Although the pity doesn't reset when you pull a 5-star like a 50-50 system, the rates aren't much higher than games with much bigger budgets. Once that initial resource dump is gone, I can see it becoming a real grind for free-to-play players to get new characters. To be fair, I haven't got to the end game yet, so maybe the events for regulars are super generous as well. And from what little coverage I was able to find, people do seem to be saying that the end game gives a bunch of freebies, and that concern bleeds directly into PvP. The meta seems pretty narrow right now, and there's one light element character who's apparently so dominant that you're basically required to use your first big pity on her if you want to climb the ranks. For me, I don't care. I'll happily farm the bots and stay in low ranks for some free stuff. But yeah, Korean live service games can't exist without being pay to win. The other monetization issue is the skins. They're all pretty expensive, and in my gooner opinion, they're all mid as fuck. But let's move on to the gameplay, because the biggest letdown for me was the exploration. The world is surprisingly immersive for its budget. The scales of the towns and the areas of interest have this MMO vibe. But actually moving through it is a fucking snooze fest. You get a mount that barely feels faster than running, there's almost no verticality, and the puzzles, while quick, force you to constantly swap between different characters to match elements. Worst of all, there's no good way to track down missing treasure chests. Look, I have work, I have sleep, I have other games to play. The idea of spending a month's worth of daily playtime just to use interactive maps and YouTube guides to 100% one boring ass zone is just discouraging. And remember how I said the story was a decent B-list isekai? Well, imagine that anime being bogged down by the usual annoying pattern of meet new NPC, now do 5 mundane talking quests before anything interesting happens again, and then get to the next story beat. But the real crime here is the translation. At one point, an NPC asked my female MC if another girl was her boyfriend. Now, I appreciate Yuri as much as the next man, unless the next man is this dude who flip-flopped between calling another NPC he and she 9,000 times over the course of 2 sentences. An NPC, mind you, that doesn't even have a selectable gender. Alright, time for the nitpick lightning round. The current limited time event is basically impossible for me to fully participate in as a new player, which just feels like I'm being left out. Every character ability has exactly 1 voice line. You hear the same voice lines over and over and over, and you can't skip the long ultimate animations. It gets really old really fast. Key features like PvP, material crafting are all tied to NPCs in the world, meaning you have to sit through extra loading screens just to access them. Speaking of loading screens, while they're pretty fast in-game, launching the game on both PC and mobile across 3 of my different devices took forever. It just hangs at 100% for like a solid minute. And even for PC, the game only supports 60 FPS. And after you set it to full screen mode, it still launches in windowed mode every single time. Individually, these are just annoyances, but pile them all up and you realize this game is being held by duct tape, although a pretty strong one. And yet, none of these flaws are the real reason I'm concerned. They're all just symptoms of a bigger problem that could bring the whole house down. So let's get to the bombshell. A Korean news article dropped a few days ago stating that the studio behind the game will probably have huge downsizing in the near future. Now, a content creator, shout out to Farmito, has a great video breaking down the situation. And by the way, he's the only English content creator I've found who consistently puts out good resources for this game, so check out his channel. And while this doesn't automatically mean end of service tomorrow, it's obviously terrible news. The company has since released a follow-up, but it's the usual corporate speak PR message that didn't really seem to give the player base much confidence. And frankly, it's not surprising, because their biggest issue is their marketing, which for a gacha game is its lifeblood. Now, I don't know what their strategy is in Korea, but my Korean friends who are knee-deep in the gacha scene have barely heard of this game. And for the global market, it's a fucking ghost town. The new meta for advertising isn't Play Store ads anymore, it's content creators. You see it with Wuthering Waves, AFK Journey, every Hoyo title. They all invest in the ecosystem. This game, they don't even have a content creator channel on their official Discord. I get that a small budget means you can't sponsor the big guys, but they seem to be doing absolutely nothing to support the few content creators who are already making good content for them for free. The official website is barely maintained, and good luck finding any English search results. There isn't even an official YouTube channel. It's like the entire team is made up of devs and artists who are terrified of people actually discovering their work. They have a decent game here, I truly believe that. And looking at the landscape of turn-based gachas, I think Rememento has what it takes to carve out a loyal following for itself. But a good product doesn't matter if no one knows exists and the company behind it might about to implode. So where does that leave us? I'm not deep enough in the game to tell you whether or not to play it, but based on the first week of my experience, the situation is this. We have a genuinely fun game with a great core loop and a solid quality of life, trapped in a business that seems to be on life support with zero marketing. As for me, I'm gonna stick around casually. The gameplay is scratching that specific itch for a deep, time-respecting gacha that is so hard to find these days, despite the oversaturated market. If the game survives long enough for me to see the end game, I'll definitely make a follow-up video. But that's just my take. I really want to know what you think. So what's your risk tolerance? Are you the kind of player who can enjoy a decent game for what it is, knowing it could disappear in 6 months? Or do you need the security of a stable future? And for those of you who have played, did you enjoy as much as I did? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And if this breakdown of the game and its situation was helpful, consider subscribing for more gacha content for busy professionals. Thanks for watching.